Hey everybody, welcome back to Magic Orthodoxy. My name is David, and this is a Magic Review. Finally, I got my copy of Lightyear, right? I got my copy of Lightyear. So stoked because I remember going to Disney World. I got a sneak peek of Lightyear when it came out, and then me and my kids were like, can't wait to go back and see this when it hits the theater. And then it came out, and then Chris Evans and Keke Palmer and James Brolin were fantastic in it. The movie was endearing. It was great to have that kind of backstory about what? It's a magic review. That's right. Lightyear is a magic trick. It is a magic trick. It's a magic review channel, right? It's not a movie review channel. It's a magic review channel. And this day is historic. It is historic. It'll go down in the annals of history because a long time back, well, several months back, right? Several months back, when I did my wrap up for Magi Fest, and I was talking about going to Magi Fest this year, I mentioned a couple times that Kyle Purnell and I connected during lunch. And I've told the story, even when I've reviewed some other Kyle Purnell tricks, I've told the story that I was a loner. I'm a 55-year-old loner, loser guy, eating my hamburger all by myself. All the cool magicians were over at another table, and they're all laughing and doing tricks and stuff. And then Kyle Purnell saw me from a distance, and he took pity on me. And he came over and he said, hey, I want to show you a magic trick. And he did. And this is the trick he showed me. He showed me Lightyear. So even way back then, Kyle was still workshopping it and still showing it to some key people. And I was blessed. So really, since Magi Fest, this trick has been in my brain. And just wondering like what it would be called, when we'd see it, what it would look like. And so here it is, finally, now, many a moon later, right? Many a fortnight later, here it is in my hot little hands. All right, so if you don't know, Lightyear, what is it? What kind of trick is it? What is it all about? Here it goes. So it's almost propless, except for the props. At the very beginning, you're going to have your spectator think of a 2-digit number, okay? One spectator thinks of one number. So they think of 37, right? Because it's 37, right? So they think of 37. And you're like, okay, but you don't know what it is, right? It's totally unknown to you. And then you bring out these little black acrylic cards that are like hole punched, and they kind of look like the old data entry cards that used to stick in computers that used to have programming on it, but they're little acrylic plates, and each plate looks a little different. They all have a different series of holes punched in them, and you could hand them to the spectator, and they could examine them, and you just tell them that these plates are mind-reading trainer plates, and you're going to use these plates to kind of observe the spectator as they are thinking about the number in their head. And so as you go through all 8 plates, and that's all it is, it's just 8 plates, they're thinking about their number, and you kind of separate them into 2 little piles. Maybe a pile for the first digit and the pile for the second. And it doesn't look like anything, it just looks like a pile of plastic plates. And then you kind of look at them and say, it was 37, right? 37? And they're like, yes, it was 37. You're like, that's interesting because when you scooch, that's the right word, when you scooch the plastic plates together and you line them all up, you can lay them on top of your illuminated cell phone, and the light shining through will hit the circles in just the right spots, the way these plates line up, and they'll see a 3 in the first stack and a 7 in the second stack. 37. And that's the trick. All right, so is the trick what I thought? Well, I mean, yeah, right? Because you assume that those holes line up to make numbers. Sure. I mean, that's really what happens, right? The holes line up to make numbers. And so a lot of the trick is relying heavily on the fact that you don't know what the number is, right? So you have to have a way to learn that number because it's a free choice. Free choice, let's stress that. Spectator can think of any two-digit number with a caveat. There's one caveat, okay? But really, I mean, it's out of the almost 90 numbers they could choose from, let's say they can choose 80, okay? So there's 80 different numbers they could choose from at least. And it's not a hard way to get them to narrow down to about 80 numbers. That's still a lot, right? That's still a lot. So you could say it was equivoque a little bit, magician's choice a little bit, but it's really not. It's more like a subtle nudge that they'll listen to, they'll take. So after that, after you get your kind of like your insight, right? Then it's just using the plates to find the number for the spectator and do the illumination with your cell phone. Is it well made? They are very well made. They are really hard acrylic. I even asked Kyle, I said, could somebody sit on these? And he's like, probably. Like, they're pretty strong. Like, you know, and I would agree. Like, when I first saw the trailer, I was worried they're like, oh, this can be like that really snappy plastic. But this is really strong, really thick acrylic. So I think the more you have them stacked together, like if you had all 8 rubber banded in your pocket, I think just the fact that they're all compressed together would make that block even thicker. So I think you take care of these, it'll last you for the rest of your life. Overall quality and production value of the video, it's Penguin Magic. It's Penguin Magic, they always do great. Really, you'll get some live shots. You'll see, I think, 3 performances with Kyle, real world spectators. I think there's 2 on the presentation itself. There's another live presentation in a special trailer. If you go watch the Penguin Magic trailer, I think there's a 3rd presentation in the trailer, but it's typical Penguin Magic. And then back at the studio, I think Kyle's in front of a black curtain. You're getting pretty much his whole waist on up. There's a couple of times they zoom in for close-ups, but you don't really need it. It's nice to have that big wide shot. As far as what they teach you, they'll talk about what you get, how it works, the code that you need to learn, and they'll spend a good deal of time talking about the code because they really want to get it in there for you. You really need to learn that part. They'll talk about routining, how to hand it out so that a spectator could examine it. There's even a bonus handling should you wish to do it a different way. And they talk about how to use your phone for the light. And of course, there's some tips and history and crediting at the end. Pocket space, I think we already covered that, right? The other option, Kyle said, is you could go out to Amazon, find a little drawstring bag. There's little velvet pouches you can get. Something like that would work pretty well. Otherwise, yeah, rubber band it, probably just stick it on the inside pocket of a jacket. That would be best, right? Unless you're totally into fanny packs, in which case this is perfect fanny pack magic. I should ask Kyle if that should be the quote. Like that quote on Penguin Magic, I think that would really sell this. Like, perfect for you fanny pack magicians. I don't know if Kyle wants his trick associated with the word fanny. How are the angles and canopy inspected? There's really no angles, right? There's no angles because you're not really doing sleight of hand during this. It's not like the spectators know what to watch for. They're like, oh, I've seen these cards before. I know what he's gonna do. Like, they don't know what you're doing. I mean, they don't even really know what you're doing throughout the whole thing until the very end, right? Because the way the trick goes, they don't understand what the cards are being used for. So they're not really watching for any sleight of hand, and you're not doing any sleight of hand. As far as inspectability goes, Kyle's gonna give you a way for that, because obviously once you line the plates up, then they know, oh, these plates make numbers, right? So obviously they must make other numbers. So they might want to take them and try to figure out how to make their own numbers. Kyle's got you covered. That was a weird noise. Kyle has you covered. He's gonna show you how to hand the cards out so that they won't do anything in the spectator's hand, and it's super duper easy. All right, so let's go back to sleights and difficulty level. How hard is this? I did say there's no sleights involved. That is true because you are learning a system. You're learning a system. And I would say this is very similar to learning a marked deck. Not a reader back deck, but a marked deck. You're learning a code. And there's a couple different codes that you're going to be taught. Out of the 8 plates, obviously you're going to divide those into 4. 4 plates make numbers 1 through 9. The other 4 plates make numbers 1 through 9, right? Yeah. So it's not like you have to learn a whole new system for one set or the other set, especially if your number is 22, right? You're going to do the same thing twice. Yes. But you need to learn the code, and that's the hardest part. Fortunately, it's a very intuitive process. It's a great process. It's not hard to memorize, but it does take practice. Best way, just have your Alexa or your iPhone just call out a random 2-digit number. Or just grab 2 die, right? Grab 2 die, roll them. Whatever number shows up, go through your plates and practice hitting those 2 numbers. And just do that over and over again until you're comfortable. The die trick, that's a really good idea. That's a really good idea. Do the die trick, that's a really good idea. But yes, you're gonna have to practice. The other part of this is really the part that's magical, is getting your read on the 2-digit number. Now you have to do a peek. Now Kyle's gonna walk you through a gypsy peek very quickly, but there's no reason why this couldn't be combined with something else, right? If you were doing a wallet peek, you could just say, right, hey, write down the name of a friend of yours and a 2-digit number. They write down Sam 23, right? And they put it in your peek wallet, you get your peek, and then you do a whole trick with Sam, right? Then you do something else. Then you come all the way back to light year and you say, hey, remember like 2 tricks ago, I told you to think of a 2-digit number. Do you still remember what that is? Let's try to do something with that, right? So you can get your peek any way you want, okay? You don't have to do the one that Kyle suggests. Set up and reset. How do you get your plates back in order? It's not hard at all, not hard at all. Remember I said there was more than one code? The other code helps you put the cards in stack. And it's, again, intuitive. The brilliant people down at Penguin Magic and Kyle Purnell, Wonder Twin Power activated, found a fantastic way to make everything super duper easy. So yeah, it's great. Another part of setup and reset, let's just say setup, is the cards come like this. So there is a paper outer shell on the front and back, and that protects the plastic during shipping. And of course, it'll make sure that your cards are pristine. But that means for 8 cards, you have 16 pieces of paper to carefully peel off. But once you do, you know, you're good to go. Positives. All right, so what are the positives? Positives are, nobody's seen this trick, right? Nobody has seen this trick. Nobody's gonna watch you come out with these plates and then they're gonna say, oh, you know what? I know this trick. My uncle does this trick. No, he does not, right? Nobody does this trick. This is a trick nobody has seen. And it's not a card trick. You know, you're whipping out a deck of cards like, all right, I'm gonna show you this card trick. But it is a trick with cards. Interesting. Yeah, it's original. It is original. And you do this trick and everyone's gonna remember you're the magician that did the trick with that thing and the stuff, right? They're gonna say, yeah, you're that guy. Do it with their cell phone, right? Do it with their cell phone. And, you know, add that little touch of their own self into the trick. So yeah, wonderful. Negatives, let's talk about negatives. The negatives are, it's not self-working, right? It feels self-working, but it's not. And the only reason it's not is because you have to, there's a learning curve, right? You gotta do some homework. Some people think that's a negative, others don't. Just depends on your style, but you need to do that. The other negative I would say would be, this is probably more for mentalists, somebody that this might fit their style. A card magician who is already carrying a deck of cards is now gonna have to carry this deck of cards. And it's a lot to carry, right? It's a lot to carry, unless you're a fanny pack magician. But if you're a card magician who already carries, let's say, 2 decks of cards, to add this, it'd be like carrying 3, right? So retail space, pocket space, right? It does take up a lot of space. Is it worth your money? It is 60 bucks. It is $60, 60 bucks. So, because, I mean, you gotta think about all the R&D that was put into this. It was a lot. Plus all the time it took for Kyle to figure out how to make these cards. Like, when you think about it, it's a modern miracle. This isn't based off of any, math that could have been researched. This had to be created from scratch, right? So yeah, a lot went into this. Plus, like I said, it's a one-time purchase. It's gonna last you forever. And like I always say, don't just take my word for it. Don't take my word for it. I am only one voice in the magic review community, right? So please go watch other magic reviewers. There's plenty of great men and women out there reviewing magic tricks. You should watch them. Craig Petty, he already did a review for this. He even did an interview with Kyle. Go watch that. All Things Magic did a review for this as well. And of course, if you're searching Lightyear review, just make sure you realize you're gonna get a ton of movie reviews in that search. That's everything I can say about Lightyear. Kyle Purnell, penguinmagic.com, $60. I hope I've answered questions for you, or at least introduced you to something brand new that you didn't know anything about. And if that's the case, I did you a favor. Could you do me a favor in return? Thanks. Hit like, subscribe, follow, mash all those buttons. That helps me out a ton. And big, huge thanks to Kyle Purnell and Penguin Magic for allowing me to have this trick so I could do the review for you. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.